This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Intuit QuickBooks. Accounting professionals and bookkeepers have long been at the forefront of using cutting-edge technologies to take the profession to the next level and to ensure they're delivering the best possible service to their clients. Whether you want to grow your firm or sharpen your skills, Intuit QuickBooks provides you with the AI-driven products, services, and the resources that you need to help all sides of your career take shape. To learn more about how QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online Accountant, QuickBooks Live Bookkeeping, and the Pro Advisor program can help you grow your practice and scale your impact, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/QuickBooks. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/QuickBooks. QuickBooks, backing you.
People are getting onto these communities. They learn more about it. So there's a lot of passion and excitement about it.
Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
I'm David Leary.
I'm Cheryl Monmohan.
I'm Scott Zandbergen.
And I'm Brad Celmainis. And we
are the Canadians.
The Canadians. We are not in Canada, though. We are in San Jose for QuickBooks Connect 2019. This is day 2. We're just finished lunch. We're well fed. I was looking at our podcast download numbers, and our second biggest audience is Canada.
Go Canada.
Yeah. So podcasting is very big in Canada, apparently. People really want to listen to our show. And I was like, I don't know really what's going on with QuickBooks in Canada right now. And I figured let's bring on some Canadians and figure this out. So do you just want to just kind of say what you do?
Sure.
You want to start, Cheryl?
Yeah, I can kick that off. I manage the education program for accountants and bookkeepers. And so I'm basically responsible for the certification and education of pro advisors across Canada.
I'm Scott, and I'm kind of a community advocate guy. I work with the accounting and bookkeeping community across Canada, so I get to go to a lot of the events, speak on lots of different stages, and share all of the good things that we are working on at Intuit Canada for our pro advisors.
And I'm Brad, and unlike these guys, I don't actually work for Intuit, but some people say I do, so it gets confusing at times. My business is Brad Celmainis Accounting Solutions in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I'm a pro advisor, but unlike every other pro advisor out there, I don't do compliance work, tax work. I like the consulting, the operational applications of the software. So.
And from where I sit in Los Angeles, you definitely seem to be like a very visible pro advisor,
yeah,
Brad.
I got the social side down.
Yeah, you got that done pretty well. Awesome.
Previous QuickBooks Connects, the Canadians come out with the power. They travel all the way to San Jose. Is it because of the weather? They're like, we're out, and hey, it's beautiful in San Jose right now.
So it's currently snowing in Toronto,
Calgary's
Ontario.
got snow on the ground too.
You know what? We're actually super happy. We have about 100 Canadian pro advisors that made the trip down this year. So yeah, we held a nice event for them last night. A place called District. Had a little soiree. It was a lot of fun.
So there was a special party just for Canadians.
Just for Canadians, yeah.
How do I get into that?
How do we get into that?
Sorry, but you guys weren't invited.
That's
Sorry.
the first sorry. Are we counting the sorries on this episode?
Is that a Canadian thing to say sorry a lot?
Yes.
I apologize.
Sorry, we like to say A.
We apologize.
Canada. That's how you spell Canada, right?
So what's going on with QuickBooks in Canada? Like I know it exists, and previously in the old desktop days, Canada was always like 3 years behind. It was a separate branch, like a feature would come in QuickBooks Desktop, and then 3 years later, Canada would get it. Right? But now with QuickBooks Online, it's the same code base, right? So what's the differences in QuickBooks? Like, are there special things bookkeepers have to deal with in Canada? Like, what's the scene up there?
Well, I'll start on that one. I mean, my history, I used to be on the product side for QBO in Canada, so it's very different in the online world because it is one code base, and there's something that we call feature flags or country flags in the product. So many times a feature will get deployed globally all at the same time right across the world, which is really awesome because Canadians are always accustomed to having to wait 3 years for some new feature or something like that. Now we are on pretty much on par with all the great things coming out, and in some cases we've had access to new capabilities because we're testing new features in Canada before they roll out across the globe. So statement import would be an example of that we have in Canada already that is nowhere else.
And I heard yesterday, I think the stat was on statement import in Canada, 85% of all available banks or bank statements for the customer base can be downloaded. It's because I think Canada just has a limited number of banks, so it's easier to do that. But that's pretty good. Nobody's close to that in the U.S. unless you put all your clients on the one bank.
Which everybody will do.
Because they listen to us.
That's right.
Right.
I'm sorry, I interrupted about the statement reporter. Continue on.
No, just probably one of the most features that people are really looking forward to, at least in Canada. And based on the reaction from the main stage yesterday when Arij talked about it, clearly everybody here wants it as well. In fact, I got kind of bugged at lunch just now by sitting across from somebody from San Diego, and she was asking, why did the Canadians get that feature and we didn't get it? I'm like, we're Canadian, I'm sorry.
Sorry, exactly. But yeah, there's
So.
definitely an envy. I've talked to some people as well, and they're like, well, this morning down in the the Society of Pro Advisor, you're Canadian, tell us about this. I don't actually have access to it because I wasn't on the beta, and I deal with the only bank in the country that isn't on board with it yet, which kind of disappointed me. But I've watched it in action. It is super cool. Like, people are going to love it. I think they're just going to have to realize the bugs and everything. They got to get them out. They really dialed it in, though. From what I'm hearing, it works almost perfectly. So rather than deal with the breakdowns, right? They don't want to deal with that because that's what's happening with the existing tools out there is they don't stay connected. I don't think that's the case. Is that correct, Scott?
From what we're seeing so far, yes. So we've also had this in beta, right, in Canada for, I don't know, it feels like 6 months.
Well, since the last QuickBooks Connect.
Okay, so even
almost.
longer,
Yeah,
even
about a
longer.
year.
And the feedback from the limited group that was using it was they were really blown away with the way it was fully integrated into the reconcile screens, and the connection seemed really, really solid. So yeah, so now that it's starting to roll out holistically, I think it's going to be a pretty popular feature.
So broadening the discussion, not just QuickBooks, but cloud accounting in general, how is the world of cloud accounting in Canada different than it is here in the United States? What are the big differences?
Colder.
I had an interesting conversation with one of our nationals sales team members, and he was saying that one of the things he's noticed is the adoption is much quicker in Canada amongst the larger firms than it is in the U.S. Is that true? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's what
It's
we're
possible.
hearing. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah,
we're
interesting.
hearing that Canada, the larger firms are more ready than than what are in the U.S. Have you heard that, Scott? Did I make that up?
I think you made that up.
Do you think that was
we'll go with
after
it.
a couple of beers last night that somebody said
Yeah,
that?
I wasn't part of that conversation,
that-
but
We report false information all the time on this podcast. So
Well, in that case,
Well, it seems that there's a lot more talk about it in our communities in Canada. They're smaller, right? And it's kind of like it's really getting out there. No, the official adoption rates keep hearing this 20 to 25%.
yeah.
I don't know how that compares to the U.S. or the UK or Australia, but it does seem we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And people are getting onto these communities and they learn more about it. So there's a lot of passion and excitement about it. And I think that's why people come down here. Like, we got the great QuickBooks Connect in Toronto, but Canada's a massive country. So you're getting a lot of the people that are down here right now are coming down from British Columbia, which is due north, is short flight. I'm 2 hours from San Francisco, and I think that's why people want to be a part of this technological revolution. And it just seems that we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time in the U.S. Social media groups as well. I just find the vibe is different. We have a lot more passion in our forums. There's a lot more interest in getting better, and because we're so polite, we don't complain as much. So I like the vibe on our groups. I may be biased.
I would say there's a strong sense of like tribe, like community
Yes.
in
Yes,
Canada.
yes, I've observed that.
And then that's certainly all grounded around cloud accounting.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the other point I was going to make around Canada being, I don't know if it's unique, but we certainly see a lot of app development happening out of Canada, right? Which is really kind
Yeah,
of
a
propped
ton
up.
of
Toronto's hot.
startups
Toronto's
recently.
really hot.
Yeah.
and Vancouver and Calgary seem to have a lot of
Yeah,
that
even in
these days,
Calgary, we
too.
have Chatta. We have trying to think, the Helm is here.
Dry Run.
Well, they're in Edmonton, but yeah, it's like it is big everywhere, and these accounting apps are popping up. I know of more in the works as well. So I think it's disproportionately or lower in a lot of things, but it just seems more visible.
I can definitely see how you talk about the tribe, because I think if you are an accountant or bookkeeper in Canada, you get to bond with other accountants and bookkeepers. You get to bond over QuickBooks if you love QuickBooks and all these apps. But then because you're Canadian, you get to bond as well. I think here in the States, like, no accountants and bookkeepers are bonding like, we're Americans. Like nobody's doing that, right? So there's one less layer of bonding, and you can see that and feel it through the Facebook groups, and it's really nobody brings U.S. flags to a conference and waves them around because there's a Canadian on stage. But the Canadians do that.
You saw that. That's right. Yes.
And of course, Firm of the Future, the last 2 champions were from Canada. And they're not doing that anymore, so we are
that's because
the
Canada
champions
was hogging forever. And that had killed the whole contest.
That's what we thought, is that people are going,
yeah,
we're never going to win again, so we have to have a different competition.
So we had a listener from, I think it was Iowa, mention that cloud is great and everything, and I love listening to the podcast, and I want to do everything, but a lot of the time I can't because my customers do not have reliable broadband internet access, which is still a problem in much of the United States. And I'm wondering if you...
Really?
Yeah. In outside of major cities, is that an issue in Canada at all, or is there...
I think so.
I forget the stat, but it's some crazy high percentage of Canadians that live, hug the American border, right, in the major centers.
Okay.
So that's obviously where we do most of our business, I would say. But I think there's less populous areas where we do fine, and the Canadian government has been investing in broadband internet and things like that, and have a commitment to get high speed to every Canadian. But I think you'll certainly still find pockets where that is problematic. Yeah.
It's pretty rare though. Like with my clients, I had some that live out in acreages and that, and they go out and buy their broadband, so they're guaranteed it. I don't really think of it as much of an issue anymore because it doesn't come up very often. It's not. It used to be the issue. If I don't have internet, I can't use cloud. And I had clients 2-3 years ago that was an issue. So they'd have to go on desktop because of it. I don't have that conversation anymore, including rural clients.
Well, I always find that a funny argument too, because the people posting that, they're posting on Facebook. I'm like, you obviously have connections. Like, how is this possible?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not buying into the whole I don't have connections.
Well, it's one thing to go on Facebook on your phone and post something, but then to have like the connection to... I think the problem is like the speed of loading pages, right? It's very frustrating to like be able to have that instant satisfaction of entering a transaction in a desktop app and then have to wait for a page to refresh.
Yeah. And watch the wheels spin.
And watch the wheel spin.
Yeah. It affects productivity.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, Brad, like you're all in on cloud pretty much. Like, what's been the big benefit to you in your business when you did go full-blown cloud?
It was just the ability to not have to deal with the IT infrastructure of my clients. Having to get VPN access and the password, and it works sometimes. I don't like that part of the job. So I had desktop clients. That was the only way to get to them, or to travel to their destination. I don't like doing that. I really like the ability to serve my clients wherever I am, have them all in one place, easily jump back and forth between the files, and of course the backup and keeping the file from getting corrupt. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So I don't miss that part of it. I mean, I still do some desktop support, but I tend to be very selective who I'm going to take in that area. I take higher quality clients. The big one is in desktop, people will call you up and say, inventory broken, please fix. And it's like, I don't think I want to, because inventory gets broken in desktop because it wasn't set up correctly. They do it wrong for 4 or 5 years. Someone does an adjustment, they make it worse. I dread those. So I won't do cleanup and stuff like that. It really is, on the cloud side, it just makes my life easier. It allows me to stay focused on the type of client that I'm looking for. And I love being able to serve them wherever they are. I give them incentive to use my online access. I charge extra. If you want me to come to your office, I will charge travel, charge mileage. And it's really allowed me to just stay focused in that tight niche and be super passionate about the brand. I had a potential client recently, and he's on desktop, and I said, why are you on desktop? And he gave me his reasons. I didn't really buy it, so I came back with just my natural response, and he goes, I sort of expected you to come back with a marketing message. And I said, marketing message? No, it's not. That's just reality. You don't want to be left behind. Why not future-proof your business? And that wasn't enough for him. He said, well, thanks, but no thanks, goodbye. So I stay pretty focused, and because I'm in the community, I'm listening to the messages from you guys on the podcast. I know Intuit Canada very well. I can stay on point. It helps me sell. benefits of being in the cloud. So it's just easier. Desktop, I tend to avoid the discussion.
Scott, how does Intuit and QuickBooks solve the all the regional type things? So like sales tax or VAT tax getting calculated, or payroll. Like, I mean, because there's like that won't work if QuickBooks payroll for the U.S. just can't go to every bunch of other countries. So like, how do I get payroll if I'm in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, many people may not realize, but we have our own development teams, right, that are Canadian specific. So in Edmonton, Alberta, we have, I don't know, there's probably 200 people that work out of that office or something like that now. But there's the majority of the staff there are engineers, right? So they do development. And so we have a portion of them that are just meant for doing localization work. And so sales tax and payroll are two great examples of where we can't just take what's coming out of Mountain View from the QBO team and then just roll it out in Canada. We have to do localization. So the last couple of years we've been doing a full-on overhaul of the sales tax center in QBO and been rolling that out. Great feedback. The other one, I definitely would plug the work that's going on for payroll, because for anybody in the QBO world has known that the Canadian payroll module has been a little bit unloved for a number of years, right? Putting it lightly, yeah. So, but in the last, I'm going to say 18 months or so, they've really been doubling down, right? So put 3 new engineering teams in Edmonton that are just focused only on Canadian payroll, and they're just knocking features out of the park right now. So I think, if you want to keep your eye on what's going on in the payroll space, I think QBO payroll, Canadian payroll, is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming months and years. Yeah.
And
The gauntlet's been dropped.
Boom.
can I make a plug for one of our exciting QBC sessions? We have a payroll session this year to talk
at
about
QuickBooks Connect in Toronto.
That's
so
correct.
What is this event? When's this happening?
How do we get there?
Can I bring a bunch of USA people there? Can we have a USA party when we go
will
to
you
Only
bring
if
a
you bring
flag?
flags. Yeah.
What time of year is it in Toronto?
It will be in the dead of winter.
Okay. Well, you're always in a conference hall
Winter
anyway.
is coming.
So.
Is that the
Winter
theme?
is coming.
Winter is coming. Yep. Bring your toque, or what do we call them down here?
Beanies.
Beanies.
Is a
Beanies
toque is a beanie?
A toque is a beanie.
Oh.
We'll get you some. We'll get you a translation tool for that.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, December 9th to 11th, we've got QuickBooks Connect coming up. Scott, what have we got going on? We've got, from my perspective, so I'm responsible for the accountant and bookkeeper sessions. We've got 33 sessions going on this year, which is up from 24 last year. So we've got a ton more accountant content. We've got meetups going on. We've got, you've been hearing about brain dates down here, the one-on-one stuff. So we've got that as well.
Yeah. So I would also say we're on our 5th year of having a QBC, although it was rebranded a couple of times. We used to call it Intuit Thrive for the first couple of years, and then now we're on, I don't know, year 3 or so of QuickBooks Connect. It's essentially a smaller version of what we're at right now in San Jose. So we will have somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 people, which is pretty good.
That's not too small,
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's respectable for a small country like ours.
I think we're punching above our weight class, to be honest.
You have app sponsors as well?
app
exhibit hall?
sponsors, yeah. We have an exhibit hall, somewhere
You
around
get
50
Canadian
sponsors.
celebrities.
We do. Can we tell you who's going
Yes,
to be
who's
there?
going to be there?
Are you guys into space?
Yeah, who
So
isn't?
our most famous, or our second most famous Canadian astronaut's going to be one of our keynote speakers. Does anybody know who he is? Mr. Chris Hadfield.
Oh, wow.
Colonel Chris
Colonel
Hadfield.
Chris Hadfield.
So he's
He
going to
is
be there.
awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, we've got him. We've got a couple of the speakers we're seeing here are going to be up north as well. We got them some toques, and they said they'd join us.
They warm up there.
And who are the big app marketplace partners in Canada? Is it the same mix that we see here, or is it like a different shift?
I think it's more tightly focused. There's this tech stack in Canada that people seem to use over and over again. You got the pre-accounting tools. Of course, HubDoc, Canadian company, technically I guess it still is, based in Toronto. A lot of loyalty because it's a Canadian brand. Receipt Bank is a very common tool. And of course, auto entry is very popular there, and that's it. So those are the 3 tools that you use one or the other. We have payment tools that are very specific to our marketplace. A
Pluto.
tool like Pluto,
Yeah.
WayPay, those are really popular. But you just don't see as many of the different apps that are down here because some of them may not even work in the marketplace. But it is definitely a tighter tech stack, I think.
Can I build off of that question? So,
Absolutely.
because my experience, I've seen a lot when I was at the apps team at Intuit, and a lot of people would try an app. Canada would try an app, and they're like, "Oh my god, this would be awesome." Then they find out it doesn't do something that Canada needs.
Usually
like,
tax.
Like, what's your message to app developers? Like
do it.
About are they ignoring the Canadian market? Are they missing the Canadian market? Is the Canadian market just hard to deal with? Like what's your message if you have this free platform here, like to deliver these app developers that are ignoring Canada?
My impression has always been that some will take it seriously when you ask, and some it doesn't even matter. They'll say, "Well, I don't see why it wouldn't work," and you try it out. It's when that tax component comes in because we have a national sales tax, so you pay it no matter where you are. And that's important. But
so one sales tax jurisdiction to deal with?
Well, there's one across Canada.
One national
and
tax.
then
and there's provincial.
Right.
But not like the 20,000 or something.
Like you have in New York City where you have 18 taxes on your bill.
That's right.
So that's the big one. But if you do talk to the app partners, and I'm going to plug Locate Inventory.
I was going to ask you what you do for inventory.
Well, tools like SOS are really popular because there's a lot thrown into that tool. But Locate has been listening because their tool has a really, it's that mid-market sort of niche. Because now you can take QBO, throw a tool like Locate at it, and punch outside your weight class for sure.
This is what David talks about all the time. It's like QBO plus add-ons becomes ERP or mid-market.
So that's where they're focused, but they don't have the GST piece. So some of our, I'll mention Sherry Lee Mathers, a friend of all of ours. She has been working with them to get the GST done, and they're really close. I think they're going to announce it fairly soon. Then we've got the access to those tools. Some listen, some don't.
You know what I think too is every time this conference happens down here, and there's a lot of these app partners. I don't know how many are here. You probably know better than I would.
It's about 109.
Okay. So what happens is always a flurry of activity that happens post QBC because a lot of them are having conversations with 100, very passionate pro advisors from Canada that are here, and they're putting pressure on and they're asking, right? Like this is exactly what we need in our market. And so I think you'll always get a few app partners afterwards that'll start to at least explore that as an option, right? Because up until this point, some of them are not even thinking Canada.
And that's a great point because that Scaling New Heights in June, that's where the Locate thing started. And Sherry talked to them. And they said, yeah, we'd like to do it. And I don't think at the end of the day, why not give it a shot in some cases? I think it depends on the size of the app and how much resources they have to devote to it.
And then I think if there's the opportunity for the app partners to connect with folks like you who are on the Canadian side to discuss things like the compliance that they need to learn about, then once you form that partnership, then I think it creates better opportunities.
Got it. So I think we're running out of time here. We're going to have to wrap up soon. So before I have everybody tell us how to connect with you guys individually, if people are interested in QB Connect Toronto, how do they find out about that?
Go to Google, type in QuickBooks Connect Toronto.
December 9th to 11th. Don't miss it.
Okay. And Cheryl, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
You can find me on Twitter, or you can find me on Facebook, as you know. So it's C Monmohan for Twitter.
And Scott, how about you?
Same, Twitter, email me. Put it in the show notes, I guess, right?
What's your Twitter handle?
S Zandbergen.
And with me, Twitter, as everyone knows, I'm at Brad Celmainis, and Facebook, very visible there as well.
Don't you
and
have
LinkedIn.
A group? A Facebook group?
Oh, yes, have a group
Canadians?
called Get Into It. So you just type in Get Into It. We're really focused on the Canadian brand. So.
And Blake?
You can find me, as always, on Twitter. I'm at Blake T. Oliver. And how about you, David?
I'm at David Leary on Twitter.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That was a lot of
Great
fun.
rest of the conference.
Great rest of your conference.